with all the readers today, everybody who enjoys learning more. Life is a work in progress, and we're always learning. And the more we learn, that there's more to learn. So, so we're all working on that. And welcome to Jean, Mary Lou, Charlie, Linda, Kathy, Stacy, and Grace Isas. So glad you're all here today. And anyone that's coming in virtually, you can come on in here in the Zoom if you want and be with us. We are working and looking and learning about what I call the soul journey, or alternate lives that we live. Brian Weiss calls it a past life. And the book we are looking at is Miracles Happen, the transformational healing power of, oh, you took it down, Charlie. Transformational healing power of past life memories. Okay, I'm going to have you read that, Mary Lou, because I can't see all of it. But let's get right into the discussion.
So this page on 211 says, perhaps we are all emanations or sparks of the one. Perhaps we are descended from an all-encompassing invisible energy. Or perhaps, as physicists have said, mystics, we have become mystics of our own age, bringing miracles and science. I remember the words of the great physicist Albert Einstein. A human being is part of the whole we call the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself in his thoughts and feelings and in his highest energy. Our energy is love, not the H2O molecule, but love. I just felt like those words were, they remind me of my own personal experiences trying to connect with God, and at different times when it's been most effective on a personal individual way, was when I consciously thought I need to connect my mind and my heart with that invisible part of myself called the soul. And then I had a prayerful experience with God. And, and of course, other times it's through interaction with people. But I just loved reading those words. They were in a different kind of way than I've always prayed, I think, with God or connected with God. And it made me feel like I was a little smarter than I really am, because I always thought it was just a prayer experience that, that we do. But it's such an fascinating, in-depth thing with people like Albert Einstein and Carl Jung and physicists and scientists all coming together to teach us, things that maybe we did already know and we didn't even know how to articulate that.
Any thoughts on that?
My thought is that I have been really happy to learn, maybe because I don't have a whole lot of knowledge, that a lot of these people like Einstein and the scientists have really spiritual sides to them that I had not learned about. All you learn is the math and the science, but you realize that thinking intelligent people naturally see truths that we don't think about. It's not that we don't think about them, we do think about them, but I didn't think that they thought about them. So it's real, that part has been really, enlightening to me, to think of Einstein thinking about love. When you think about him as being, so mathematical and so precise, but that shows you that there's that God-given truth to all of us. So that's been a nice thing to learn from this book.
I don't know where I read this, but I read it probably 7 or 8 years ago, that some of our greatest innovative minds that have existed on this planet would set an intention before they close their eyes to go to sleep, that they would remember what came to them during their sleep time. And it's in our sleep time, in our relaxation time, that our spirit guides, the angels, God, can talk to us and bring us that information or remind us of what we already know. We all know everything, we all have all of that inside of us. So I read that and I was so impressed, like Eugene. I thought, wow, that they would connect with their higher self and set that intention that whatever's going to come through, I'm going to remember it. And obviously they did. You know, we have some really great inventions from people that were connected in and they decided it was their choice that they would remember what to do when they woke up. That's the power. And that's why it's so important, I think, to keep a dream journal, to keep paper and pen close by, or some way to record when we wake up. What are those waking thoughts? What came to us while we were sleeping? There may be some Einsteins here among us. Seriously.
I've always thought it was so amazing that a musician or a writer or somebody like that that has talent or not wakes up in the middle of the night and is singing the song or writes it down. And the same with scientists, they come up with some things like, where did that come from? And I was told for a while it's your brain working on it after you go to sleep. Your brain is still processing. And that's true, but I also think a lot of it's just inspired and it's meant to be. And some of those songs that they write are like classics. They're just something people need to hear at that time, or the music or the melody. So yeah, I love the idea of the intention. And I'm not taking away from the scientists. I'm just saying, they also wake up with, tremendous ideas or knowledge on how to do something.
Or they might have that breakthrough through their relaxed time of
Right.
the puzzle piece that fit in when they were looking at it and nothing would fit. So
Right.
yeah, there's a lot to say for just allowing and then setting the intention. I'm going to remember this.
I think you hit the nail on the head, because that's where the idea of the muses came from, that they whisper in your ear, that they tell you things. That's what great poets and artists and, have always said, the muses help me. Well, it's like you say, it's inspiration from the divine for things that we probably need at the time. So it's beautiful.
And inspiration is in spirit.
Exactly.
All right, Linda.
It's interesting. On page 211, what Teri has been telling us about the Akashic records. It right at the bottom of page 211, there is this. It says, we are connected at the soul level and can share all experiences. The concept of the Akashic records, a knowledge of all things, and the collective unconscious, a similar idea offered by psychoanalyst Carl Jung, reflect this potential. I think it is just amazing to affirm and confirm what Teri has been telling us about the Akashic records, that we have them. And at the end, it says, for God is in each of us. So I just wanted to share that. I thought that was really interesting.
You know what I'm picking up from just being a part of this club is that maybe I shouldn't try to read page for page, but maybe like when I sit down, with work, I really didn't get into this. Now that I'm home, I probably have a little more time, but I'm supposed to be teleworking. But I think I'm going to try to just open to a page randomly And my mom used to do this with the Bible a lot. I remember her just saying, put like your intention there. And when you open it, you're going to open to something that you needed to hear that day or read that day.
I love
So
that,
I think
Kathy.
that's what I'm going to do for this book, because I just can't read page after page after page of it. It's not clicking with me, or at
Yeah.
least
They're
I don't
all
know.
like mini, not even
The
short stories. They're like
Right.
not even a page.
Right.
It's but some of them get your attention, and they all have titles. And what the one that struck me was the one I was just reading yesterday, and the earlier one. The earlier one was Call Your Mother.
Yeah.
So that's something we all have to do. So, yeah,
That's
that was
popular in heaven.
yeah, that was like two of them were at the seminar or whatever, and they didn't think that that they would be into this and everything, and then the one woman wasn't paying attention. She didn't think she'd know anything, and she told her a whole life story about it and everything. Yeah, that was on 196 or whatever. But yeah, this one experience taught me so much how connected we truly are, and that we need not worry about the future or dwell in the past, but rather live each and every moment to the fullest. And while we are doing so, we must remember to see all your mutas. So call your mothers. And the other one that resonated with me was on 245 into 246. This monk in the 1600s, which on one of my past lives, I was a monk in 1618, so it resonated with me. And this monk had an affair with another monk, and he went and he told Father Francisco about it. And Father Francisco didn't take too highly of it. And Father Francisco beat the hell out of him and kicked him and everything, and kicked him out, excommunicated him from the church. And what in the past life, Father Francisco's father beat the hell out of him because he thought he could beat the hell out of him. So it was really, really ironic. And I think his wife in this lifetime is Father Francisco or something. That one's really good on 245. An explanation of empathy. Father, I'll read the last part. Father Francisco returned in my president credit many counseling supervisor, Frank. So now he's a supervisor. To be much more helpfully mentor to me as a therapist. I returned to him as an admin student for many years lifetime before I had past life memory. One of the things that I confronted Frank about was that he felt he didn't offer me enough emotional support. He replied that I was unteachable. We were both right. And well, before the memory, I became more open to Frank's coaching, and he was gentler with more compassionate. It literally changed his mind. We actually did your training together. So that one was really, yeah. But anyway, there's so many of them that there was a lot about the German war and how the prisoners of war, and stuff. There was a bunch of them.
Well, you know, Christina had said earlier in conversation that she was just picking it up and finding a story and reading it. That's kind of what I've been doing. I hate to say this, but it's a great bathroom book. No, it really is, because you can
I know.
pick it up and read a story and you're done, and you know. But I'm still having a lot of trouble.
God, I love you, Jean.
Sorry. I have a
But
lot
I get these pictures in my head and I just
well, I mean, it just is. Anyway, well, I'm an old lady. Anyhow, I think it's something I would have to experience myself to really see the true value of what he is explaining. I love the stories. Some of them make me very sad. Some of them, like the one, it's been a while back, but the one where the lady had the little boy who was so sick and she had to do everything for him. And she had a regression to where she found out that her son had been hurt in a past life, and they kind of took him away from her and she couldn't get in to see him, and she couldn't, all this stuff, she was separated from him. So now she had an opportunity. He was the same person, and she had an opportunity to be with him through everything. And for some reason, I'm like, I really have a hard time explaining this, but it's like karma to me. Like you're taking karma, which I understand you're learning lessons. I do understand that. But it just seems like karma kind of travels with you in, and for some reason, I'm so sorry, and I know I'm a troublemaker all the time. It doesn't appeal to me that would happen, that something would happen in the past life that would then be, even though she was so loving and she was prepared for what she did, it just made me feel sad. And I'm just being honest, but reading it as stories, that helped me a lot get into it. Trying to read it as a book did not. I'm still having issues with that. Sorry.
So I just want to know why you're sorry.
Oh.
Like,
Well, I sometimes think I see things very strange than.
No, it's just you're processing the thoughts out loud. And I love that because it makes us go with you to think and process. So I appreciate you speaking up and bringing what you consider your strange questions, but they're not.
Okay.
They're what we all need. Obviously, I mean, if it wasn't, you wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, that's true.
But we are all here on purpose. We're all here as a part of the divine plan, and we're all learning together. So it's like not like one person has all the answers. We're all seeking, and as Ram Dass says, as Charlie likes to remind us, we're all walking each other home. So to get there in that place where it's unconditional love, sometimes we have to ask the tough questions. Sometimes we have to explore our doubts, and not even just the doubts, but the things that we wonder about, and we're just not sure what that entails and what it looks like. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with any question that's brought up at all.
Well, I just don't want to be negative, I guess, is what, and sometimes even though I'm really trying not to be, it does sound negative.
I didn't take it as a negative at all.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
No.
Okay. Well, I've done this all my life. I apologize for what I think, so I'm sorry.
Don't do that.
Well, that's why we charge you $25 every time
I
you say
know.
Jean, Jean, I think I relate a little bit to how you were trying to express it. And in the beginning of the book, I'm not sure, but I think I remember them saying, that we don't have to really relate to every one of the stories or understand the stories. And for me, when I read that, my whole take on this book is to read the story and then see what the message is behind the story. Like, what was the lesson that they're learning? And for me, that's the best part of it. I don't relate to every one of the stories, and I don't even understand how that could possibly happen, to go back 200 years and in our mind. And it's fascinating, that some people do it so quickly, and they understand who that person is that they're seeing, and then they can relate it to their life today. And for me, that's the whole point of it, is how do we learn from that, the story or the personal experience that some people have? What is it that you learn about yourself, so that you can then turn it into love? You can turn it into, like Charlie was talking about, the monk, and obviously it was a lesson for him to learn that because your father was abusive to you, maybe that's why you were with this person. That it was a learned technique. When you were angry about something or disagreed with something, maybe you became abusive, and he finally learned that he doesn't have to be just like his father. And he still didn't seem quite willing to understand it, did he, Charlie? Because, he said, well, I think that, you're wrong too. We're both wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, he came back as a therapist trying to help people. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that part of it was good, but I think if I read it right, he didn't want to acknowledge, too much fault within himself.
Right.
Yet.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to do that yet. And so it's like the whole book is like a lesson in learning, from our own personal life experiences now. And for those who are able and willing and want to learn from past life, there's an opportunity for you to try to do that. Am I on the right track, Teri?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a saying in like the 12-step programs that people go to: take what you need and leave the rest. So we're not all going to resonate with every story. We're not all going to resonate with even a statement that somebody might make on here on the discussion part. But there will be something there for you to take from. So take what you need, take what resonates, take what is that one thing that's speaking to you. And then, it's okay that you don't
And then
resonate
just
with
flush the toilet on the rest.
Flush
Jean.
the toilet. That's right.
Well, I'm in there anyway, so thank you, Mary Lou.
The drain.
Well, it's just to tell us, to remind us that we come back. We're only here for like seconds in our, lifetimes, that we come back. We reincarnate now, come back as our souls, with the same relationships with, and we're just learning, the lessons in life that, we didn't learn in the previous lifetimes.
But I think what disturbed me was this particular story. So what I need to do is forget it. Because I think to me it was almost like she was getting a healing for what happened in her past life. That she hadn't been able to take care of her boy, and it really hurt her in the past life. So she was getting the opportunity in this life to do it. And I don't know, it just...
Jean, I think it has something to do with your past life. is
It's
bothering you
possible.
so much, and that
Possible, very possible.
just,
Yeah, it is. Because it
yeah,
really did. It rather upset me. So, but I think two things. One, I'm going to do the Bible thing, Kathy. I'm going to pick it up and start reading, and hopefully I get what I need at the time.
I
And
just did. It was weird.
really wonderful, you see?
It was
And
really weird.
then the other thing is try to change my view a little bit. I think I've been really kind of resistant to this book for some reason.
maybe we ought to just each do a short one. Just go like that and read one.
Oh, we could do
I wish
that.
I could find the one that I had.
You know, I found that the other book, I mean, the Bible is one, but Sherry Myers' book, I am constantly turning to pages in her book.
Yes.
I have a few of them that I do that. There's some books that I have that have different daily devotionals or something like that. And I also do it that way. To me, it's not much different than using your card set when you do that. Like if you're using a set of oracle cards and you say, okay, I'm going to draw one, for my theme for today. It's kind of like that.
You
Good
see
point,
in the back of me? There's all my oracle cards. Have them out because I have them put away and I would hardly ever use them, except if I decided to do a reading for someone. So I just put them out to where I can pick one up during the day and have an inspiration from them. So it's working out pretty good that way.
I think that this book has got very interesting interpretations. I think Jean, or what I did is I just went in and there's certain chapters, I've understood how to read the book. For example, there was something that really resonated with me and gave me a little bit of more understanding. It's under the healing physical symptoms and illnesses.
Uh-huh.
It's page 148. And in the middle, it says, and this to me was wonderful. And perhaps I think those of us who have been on the journey with more going into the Bible and, and even understanding angels, this to me resonated as something that can help you to kind of see from another perspective or understand. It says, grace is the intervention, the reaching down from heaven to earth by a wise and loving divine force in order to help us in some way. Is this force what we call God? Perhaps all energies and manifestations, people, animals, plants, rocks, anything in physical form, come from one supreme source, where you call this source God, a higher power, or any other name. And so we are all born from the divine, for the divine is in every atom of our being. Can angels reach down to? Perhaps all higher beings are intermediaries from God to earth and are all manifestations of the source energy. If angels are the children of God, then we are the grandchildren. To approach everybody and everything with compassion and caring concern is to recognize the common divinity that we all are, that we all share. Another remarkable case of a physical healing. So I just wanted to share that because I feel at this stage where I am, all of a sudden there are how many angels, Teri? 500,000?
Plus.
Period.
And darling Christina is helping us to engage with also the guidance from Teri to see how supported we are and to understand the whole picture, the whole 3-dimension phase and beyond, and who we really are at, but thank you.
Yeah, there's a myriad of angels.
Yeah.
We love that word.
Myriad.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Charlie, go ahead.
No, when it said grace, I thought of grace when I read that one. I said, oh, grace.
Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was very good. Yeah. There's so many ones that resonate that in there.
That was one of the ones that I turned to myself, honestly.
Yeah.
And those thoughts are carried on a bit when he wrote, we may talk about the existence of God and higher planes, but we don't have the words or the comprehension to understand it completely. But mostly we need to know about God and love. The person can survive the worst and healing if they are aware of love and being loved. I keep the beauty. This is a quote from somebody named Karen Bowden, Kaaran Bowden.
I remember that one. Yeah.
It was powerful because she said, I keep the beauty, the loving kindness, and the love. They last forever.
Yeah.
Though I guess that part of the book is that part where they teach the wisdom that they've learned really speaks to me. There's a few stories that I liked that I related to, but those words of wisdom, like the one that Grace has just read for us, they're wisdom treasures,
Gems. I said he
Yeah.
had a whole bunch of gems in this
Yeah.
book. He does.
Yeah.
I'm not regretting reading it at all because of these gems that he has in there. Yeah. I love that. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you all kind of making me feel not so odd. So appreciate it.
You're
And I
unique.
think many of us are coming from not having much experience necessarily with the subject. And so I mean, I'm for myself, I didn't have a whole lot of experience with it. So, to hear these stories, I think, but I think I went into it maybe with different expectations, like I was going to learn more about how it works or something. I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but it really doesn't get into that. It does in the way that we can take these stories and interpret them to a point, but it's not a book that tells you very much about past life regression itself, like the facts and figures. And so, like I said, I think once I gave myself permission to bounce around the book, and that made a big difference for me.
Yeah. It was hard to get started to read it, and and it is a long, 350 pages or whatever, so
Small print too.
Yeah, it is quite a read to, you just gotta, if you want to read it all, you just gotta stick with it, but I'll probably finish it, but if I don't, whatever.
Like Teri tells us, Teri always is guiding us and teaching us. We know a lot within. So if you have to jump around, trust yourself, and forgive me, Teri, if I say this. Trust yourself. You know more than your brain tells you. That's just Google. That's your search. Go with what resonates with you, what is in you. You know what you need. Your soul knows what fuel it needs. And that's why we're finding that most of us are resonating with, if you just picked it up and wherever you opened and something jumped at you, and then there's the message for you. We're constantly guided to what we need. See? Yep. So I think that's a great awakening to all of us. And thank you all for just being on your own schedules.
I've been getting a lot of messages from the book of don't judge yourself and don't judge others. And guilt isn't worth anything. And, with guilt, my saying is, if I could go back and change it, I would act differently or I would do better. But at the time, that's what it was. I didn't know better and I didn't have experiences yet. to change. So I did the best I could on that day. And applying it to past life regressions, it's like you might look at something and say, I couldn't have done that. That couldn't have been me, and it was, but you had learned a lesson since that, and we are different now. And some of these lessons aren't necessarily for us, but there are things that other people have gone through. So it's good to be aware of their lessons. And it's hard for me to understand all of it. But I did have an experience. It wasn't a near death, but I was on the way to heaven. And you get a totally different perspective of the earth and the earth plane when you either have a moment of bliss or a moment of starting to detach. And it's we all have a spark of God, so we shouldn't judge anybody, even people that have done us wrong, or people in prison. They're not hopeless. They still have a spark, and maybe they didn't really do what people said they did anyway. So I'm just adding that, as far as not to feel the guilt, but to learn from it, and learn and change yourself and go on from there.
Linda.
Like you were talking about books, and I have a book that I do once in a while, and it really resonates with me, and it is God Makes the Rivers Flow.
Oh yeah.
And by Edris, whatever, is there, Osborne. And he's the professor English literature at the University of Nagpur in India. An established, right? He came to the United States on the Flatberg Exchange, and he's the director of the Blue Mountain Center for Meditation. Oh. And I just picked one of the stories. I just went through the book, and it came up with whatever you do. So just what we're talking about with the book, whatever you do. So I'm going to read it real quick to you. It's not that long. A leaf, a flower, a fruit, or even water offered to me in devotion, I will accept as the loving gift of a dedicated heart, whatever you do. Make it an offering to me, the food you eat or worship you perform, the help you give, even your suffering. Thus will you be free from karma's bondage, from the results of actions, good and bad. I am the same to all beings, my love, is the same always. Nevertheless, those who meditate on me with devotion, they dwell in me, and I shine forth in them. Even the worst sinner becomes a saint when he loves me with all his heart. This love will soon transform his personality and fill his heart with peace profound. O son of Kanti, this is my promise. Those who love me, they shall never perish. Even those who are handicapped by birth have reached the supreme goal in life by taking refuge in me. How much more the pure Brahmins and royal sages who love me. Give not your love to this transit world of suffering, but give all your love to me. Give me your mind, your heart, all your worship. Long for me always, live for me always, and you shall be united with me.
Wow.
That was nice. And Charlie,
again?
You should be a preacher.
Thank you, Charlie.
That was the Bob BHAGAVAD Gata, GITA.
Can I see the cover?
Yeah.
Okay.
God
Good
makes the river
River
flow.
flow.
Yeah, and
That's nice.
yeah, there's all sorts of like Buddhist stuff and Hindu stuff, and all sorts of different different passages that yeah, but that was
Very
I'll
nice.
put every once in a while I'll pull it out and it comes to write what we're talking about. So, but anyway,
Mary Lou, isn't that the first commandment? Thou must love the Lord thy God with thy whole heart. Yeah.
Yes,
you muted.
yes, it is, Jean.
You muted.
You're muted, Mary Lou.
There you go.
Yes. Jean, I was into it my adult life before I really understood that complete message from God is to love with all our mind, our heart, and our soul. But it doesn't end there. It's to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Because I
That's
was
a commandment too.
Yeah, and I was in the generation where we were taught to not put ourselves into a place of importance. We were all, and in the way that they said that was, constantly, the way I received that, I should say, was to put myself, make less of myself. I would always make less of myself. And I didn't do that in the honorable way that God wants us to. I did it in such a way that I wasn't important. I wasn't important. What I thought, what I felt, always there was somebody more important, and their message was always more important. And I can remember when the light bulb went on, and all those words of the first commandment don't mean anything unless you love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that gave me then permission to look within myself and find lovable things and to share those lovable things. But I think that, sometimes we forget that piece of it, that we are lovable. We are made in the image of God. How can I be in the image of God if I'm not important? So, the comedians used to make jokes about us being impotent, I'm impotent, and it was a man who was impotent that I was saying to you. And I remember a priest standing on the pulpit making a joke about that, that I'm impotent, when he was trying to teach us not to see ourselves as being important. And he was using that vulgarity on a pulpit to make the point of it, and I had to speak to him after the service.
He
I
made
couldn't
his
hold
point.
it.
I'm sure you did.
I just couldn't hold it within, I felt, well, why is he up there joking about something that is not the teaching of love? We do need to hold ourselves important because we are made in the image and likeness of God. And how can we give light to others if we don't embrace it within ourselves? So I don't know why you brought it up, Jean, but that's my thought.
I'm sorry. I just when he was reading it and he was reading about, loving God, it just reminded me that, well, that's the first commandment. If we keep the first commandment, nothing else matters because
That's right.
We're there.
It's such an important message for people to hear. I mean, I know that, I've worked with people who are caregivers, and that is such a sorely needed thing to hear and to believe, because, the caregivers, there's this part where the thought is there that if they don't give more of themselves all the time, it's always them sacrificing and them, and it becomes a mentality over the years that scarcity and not being full is where they should be to be normal. And to, you know, for them, it's like they think that's their whole being, and that's the right spot. And it comes as quite a shock to a lot of people when they hit rock bottom, or they get to the point of truly being stressed out and burned out. Burnout is a big thing. And that burnout comes directly from that idea that you have to give more than you receive. You know, it really does. It's there's so much burnout. I think any burnout, I mean, my experience may be with caregivers, but I think it could go with anything in any profession. That burnout is really not making sure that yourself is full in the first place.
No, that was from Hinduism. That one. The book has Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, Native American, and Taoism.
Sounds like a book of wisdom.
Yes,
yeah. Sounds like a book I want.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna have to call time. I'll be the bad guy.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we need to clear the channel, and I love the discussion today. Thank you for bringing so much up. I was just in a meeting before this one with Unity Earth, and we're getting ready to celebrate a whole week of talking about unity. And one of the presenters brought out something, and she goes, when you think about, water and how we bless the water, and we think about water conservation and clearing it, to not think of it outside of ourselves, to think of it as we are water.
Yes.
And when you think about consciousness and how, these brilliant people come forth, Charlie, the person that wrote that book, that put it together and shared all those insights, and all that insight that came from the different religions and leaders, that is inside of us. We are consciousness. So I just wanted to leave us with that. When we read any book, when we read any inspired thought, just realize that's inside of us, because we are just one. And so everything is coming from one place. We're just opening up to it with our human brain. And that's what I love about this book club. I love that all of us come together and we share with each other and share of our own wisdom and what's coming forth from us. That is, just reflection to all of us of who we are, our beauty, our greatness. And there is beauty inside of you. There is greatness inside of each one of us. So I want to thank all of you for coming today, for showing up, for bringing it, and for just keeping on being your wonderful self. This will be the last discussion on this book, and we'll be moving on, I think. Wait a minute. We have another week?
I think we have one more week. I think we're still in March.
Yeah. I thought March would be over by next week, but it won't. So there'll be one more discussion on this book on the 31st of March.
I get a chance to finish the book.
You get a chance to finish the book and tell us all about it. So anybody that wants, join with us again next week. If you want to be on here on Zoom and join in the discussion, there is a group on Facebook called Soul Food Book Club, and the link is in there. You can go in and find out how to come on and have a discussion with us, and we encourage you to do that. And Ringo is our mascot here today, who is helping us to understand this book, Miracles Happen.
Itty Bitty says, no way, she's here too.
Oh, Itty Bitty. We have another voice heard from.
There's two over here too.
Yeah.
Looking at me. What?
And Sonny's probably somewhere hanging out.
Sleeping on the couch.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get off of here to clear this channel and say thank you to everyone that came in. We love you
Love you
so
all
much.
so much.
All
We end
right.
our show with a
Namaste,
Hey,
y'all.
Oh, stay with Enlightened World Network. There's much more coming out today, and there's always something for somebody. So just tune in and see what you might resonate with. Bye, everybody.